Our next panel discussion will be about gaming and the creative economy, driving the next generation of users to Web3. This panel will be hosted by none other but Alekseeva, the CMO and head of Web3 at Kuble, as well as a founding member of Women in Web3 Switzerland. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Alekseeva. She's being joined up on stage by Saro, McKenna, co-founder and CEO of Dacoco Alien Worlds. And I am sure you all remember him. We have the CEO of Animoca brands, Robby Young. Followed by the CFO at Group Chiliz, Julian Picque. And ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, the CEO of Fungies.io, Dacoco.
All right, hi everyone. And thank you to my panelists for being here today. I'm super excited. I just have to call out the elephant in the room. If you're a woman in Web3 and you're not wearing silver, are you a woman in Web3? Anyway, so today we're talking about Web3 gaming. I just want to get a pulse check before we start. Who in the audience is a gamer or considers themselves a gamer? Cool, okay. Keep your hand up if you consider yourself a Web3 gamer. And keep it up if you are also a blockchain developer. All right. Cool, we'll get back to that later. So first up, let's talk about the history of Web3 gaming. And Saro, I'll give that question to you, if you could lead us through a little bit where we are, how far we've come, and the evolution of the token economy there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Saro, McKenna. Everybody, nice to see you all here today. Co-founder and CEO of Dacoco. We're the people that launched the Alien Worlds metaverse, homegrown right here in Zug. Most played blockchain game in the world for a couple of years. And you use NFTs, you play within DAOs, which are on-chain teams competing against each other within this metaverse, this open metaverse in which users are really at the core of the experience rather than there being a kind of centrality around the company that owns the end-to-end experience. So where are we in blockchain gaming? I think there's a couple of strands to that. There's a kind of user experience story and the technology having evolved from sort of consoles to PC gaming to mobile gaming. There's that part of the trajectory, but I think that one of the things that it's really useful to think about blockchain gaming in terms of is tokenization and tokens being really fundamental to how users interact with the games that they're playing, and also why we ended up creating blockchain games in the first place. So, the first iteration of tokens in the story of blockchain were just fungible tokens, right? In which you could just store and transmit value. And then we had blockchains that became more sophisticated and you could do more with them, smart contract chains like Ethereum and onward. And then you began to be able to think about actually running applications on a blockchain. So beginning to think, could you create game actions that weren't just using a token to transmit value, but were actually encoding some of the game itself onto the chain. And then we had NFTs, which represented unique items. And of course, in a game, that's a useful thing to be able to represent, right? You might want a sword, or you might want a piece of land, or you might want to, have an avatar that you represent as an NFT, or to be able to represent levels or certain types of relationships between people as being NFTs. And so that was a really important part of the story of how we could create a game running on a blockchain, was that we had fungible tokens that could represent these aggregate forms of power, reward, value. And then we had NFTs that could represent unique items that might be useful in various places. And then we have a next iteration of what we can do with tokens, which is DAOs, DAO tokens, which is representing groups of people acting together that feel a membership and an allegiance to one to each other, as represented by the token on-chain and by the DAO account on-chain. And this is teams, right? And teams are super significant in the story of some types of games. And that adds another dimension to how we can, to what we can represent on-chain. And of course, every time we can tokenize something, every time we can represent something on the blockchain and sort of express its value that way, we open up a lot of possibilities. We open up the possibility for co-ownership. We open up the possibility for other people developing into a platform, especially if that application is running on a public permissionless chain. We open up the possibility that you don't just have a single founding or a single governing company that creates it, but you might have numerous, I mean, this is Yatsui's definition of the or part of his definition of the metaverse is an interconnected series of platforms. And once you have tokenization and you're running these quite complex applications on a blockchain, what you have is different parties providing different touch points for the users. So the wallet might be run by somebody, some of the games might be run by somebody, some of the NFTs or some of the tokens might be run by somebody, but there might be another group that's creating DAOs over there, and they would all be considered to be part of one tokenomic environment, one game, one metaverse. This opens up a lot of value and different business models, different gaming models, and really a whole new paradigm of gaming.
Cool, thanks. That's super robust. Robby, what's your perspective on that with the shift from Web 2 to Web 3 gaming, and also what makes a game decentralized?
Sure, thank you. I think to follow on what Saro was saying, I think it's really about the idea that you can open up game environments, because if we think about what Web 2 games are, they're closed economies, and they're closed economies built around the vision of the game developer, but everything that's done in there is maniacally controlled by the game developer because they want it to work in a very specific and singular way. And this was designed because we had closed game platforms. We had console games with cartridges, and nothing was upgradable, and you played it for a while, and that was the origins of gaming. But as we've migrated to an interconnected, largely online-based game experience where most of our content comes to us progressively, where we're subscribing to new content updates and update packs, and we're creating user-generated content in this much more flexible environment, we think it makes a lot more sense to start to decentralize these games so that people can contribute in real time to experiences together, which is exactly what Saro was talking about. Why shouldn't I be able to create content in alien worlds, or provide economic value to players there and be a participant in that economy, just the way we do in the physical economy? You know, I may not live in Zug, but I can have a business here, I can be a customer of shops here, I can have economic activity together because we're in an interconnected world.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Duke, for you, it's kind of been a shift toward the other way. So Fungi started as a Web 3-based company, and now you're expanding into Web 2. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm probably like building the youngest company among all of people right here, but I would like to share my experience. I mean, we're building Fungi.io, which is NFT marketplace, a white label platform to build NFT marketplaces into your games, and also Web 2 games to self-publish your games through your own storefronts. So what we have learned with interacting with the Web 3 games, we began with building the product for the NFT games out there. It's just a very early market. There's around 164 playable Web 3 games right now, maybe 2,000 of them in total. And so it's a very young, it's very early, and grateful for Animoca brands, all of you here investing in your time into building products for this Web3 community. From our side, the first reason is that one, I think that every game in the future will be Web3, will have some kind of blockchain element into their games. And so we won't call them Web 2 or Web 3 games. It's just going to be games. And the point of making games is to have fun, right? And so if it's going to be decentralized assets or centralized assets, it's going to be probably the same. But I think that there's a huge value in implementing Web 3 and decentralized assets into the games, especially in MMORPG world where we have peer-to-peer trading. I'm talking about Blizzard, Activision, World of Warcraft, Diablo, where there's a lot of trading on auction houses. That's where decentralization and owning immutable assets on the blockchain has the most value. And so I think that will be the future. It just will take time for Web3 games to be popular. And two, we think that as a VC-funded startup, our goal is to grow as much as possible. And so that's why we are expanding into Web2. And by that way, we have now 4,000 customers who are using our platform. That maybe in the future, there will be a chance for them to translate their games into Web3. And we are there. We have already the platform, and we are already onboarding Web2 games to the platform. So there's a chance for them to make their games Web3 compatible.
And do you all see like a threshold to entry into Web3 gaming as being like you have to be a Web3 or a blockchain developer to play in the space?
I'll take that. No, I don't think so at all. I think that it's about infrastructure and about onboarding tools, and we just try to make it as easy as possible. I mean, Julian and I spend a lot of time thinking about football specifically because we both have content businesses in Web3 thinking about football because it's a great way to onboard a mass user audience into some new technology that they're not familiar with.
I completely agree. I think maybe 5-6 years ago it would have been different. Web3 was maybe a bit scary for some people, but today the technology has evolved in the sense that it's seamless. People don't realize if they're into Web3 or Web2 as a user experience. In terms
Are we there now?
For me, yes, completely.
Yeah.
In terms of the features that you see, it's different, but in terms of the onboarding that you see on a Web3 game versus a Web2 game, people don't really see. If you play an in-app game, you don't really see the difference as a user experience between a Web2 and Web3.
The same in our case. We have talked with hundreds of game developers, studios, publishers, and the biggest concern is how to attract as many players as possible to their games, and that's their goal, building the games that attract the wider audience. And so they constantly just ask us, like, who are the providers of, like, let's say, invisible wallets, allowing to log into the game with email or social logins. There's a bunch of solutions out there on the market, but it's very different from 2 to 3 years ago, where there's literally just MetaMask, and it was very hard a huge friction to play those Web3 games. But now it's different.
Okay. And Julian, you do something a little bit different to everyone else on stage. Do you want to introduce what you do?
Sure. We're not as per se a gaming company. We're more Web3 sports company. So I'm going to do a bit the same exercise as you did, just to see if I get the same result. Just show of hands quickly. Like a few months ago, there was the Champions League final, Milan against Inter against Manchester City. Who just heard of it, watched the game online? Just okay, a few hands. Thank you guys to participate as well.
I'm just blocking the light, actually.
That works as well. Block the light and say you raise your hand. And who among you went to see the game in Istanbul? 0. Okay. You're not alone. So if you look at it, like we estimate that over 700 million people watch the game online, and there is only 70,000 space in the stadium. So if you do the quick math, that means that 99.99% of the people that are interested into the game, they're not able to have a live experience in the real life. And that's exactly the problem statement that we wanted to solve. And for us, the solution was fan tokens, digital fan tokens. They are utility fungible tokens that enables the fan to better engage and live their passion with their team. And if the fans, and this is very similar as the gamer in terms of the fundamentals, they want three key things. The first thing is a sense of belonging. They want to be part of a community, and they want to be recognized for being part of that community. And fan token acting as a Web3 membership is achieve that goal. The second one is they want control or share of influence over the game they play. And with fan token, the features that we put in place, it's called binding poles, meaning in the sense that the clubs agree to submit some decisions to the power of the fans. So if you activate your fan token, you can vote and decide what's going to be, for example, the design of the kit for the next season. If there is a new player coming in, what should be the number on the jersey behind the jersey of that player. So to the fans, that give them a sense of control and ownership. And the last one around the gamification is they want to be rewarded for the influence and for the time they spent with their team. And we put through in-apps game predictor quizzes in the socials.com app. You earn rewards for your participation, and you can reclaim these rewards to get tickets, meet and greet with the players, or or memorabilia as well. So these three elements, we believe that we can tackle them with a Web3 fan token as we did. And this has been proven to be both beneficial for the fans because they achieve these 3 points, and for the clubs as becoming a new source of revenue for them. And just to give you some numbers, we're 5 years old. We have over 2 million users now, 150 clubs onboarded. Last year, we gave out to the fans more than 25,000 tickets, in 1 year. And this has been proven to be very, very successful, both for the fans and for the clubs. And the only thing I want to say before I stop,
Please.
looking at me,
Just listening.
When we launched it, we're working with teams that are not the best and the most innovative teams in the world. Sport clubs are not the most innovative ones, so we had to create a semi-centralized solution at the beginning that you can only use your fan tokens on the socios.com app. After years of education, we managed to transition our Chiliz chain from a layer 2 protocol to a layer 1, meaning that now we welcome anyone to build on the Chiliz chain and to use the fan tokens to develop new utility for the user and to develop new value proposition. So anyone interested in developing on the Chiliz chain is more than welcome to come and help us shape the future of Web3 for sports.
Thanks. And actually, I want to know, how did you onboard the greatest sports institutions into Web3?
One by one. There is no. We got very lucky. First one was the Juve, 2019, and then PSG. I think it's just having the right people in their organization that understand a bit what's going to be the future of fandom, and then they start working with you step by step, baby step by baby step. And then when the clubs start seeing what we did with Juventus, they were very intrigued and they started coming more and more with us. And also COVID was a huge boost for us, very surprisingly, in the sense that because fans cannot go to the stadium anymore, finding a way for them to have a digital interaction with their team, even if there is no live game they can attend, was a very good compensation for the clubs and for the fan.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think it's such a huge feat to be able to have names like NFL, NHL, as part of what you've done. It's really cool.
Thanks.
Cool. Saro and Robby, so both of you are part of the Open Metaverse Alliance. Tell us a bit about that and the goal of this alliance, what you think the outcome will be for Web3 gaming in the metaverse.
Yeah. So in this story of an interconnected series of platforms where the user is at the center of that, so they have an account, maybe they own NFTs, maybe they're using those NFTs to play a game in a particular environment, maybe they're voting in a DAO or they're creating some content. The promise of that architecture, and it contains some downsides. It's a little bit harder to build that way. You have to build on blockchains. I would argue that although we have a vision of that being an amazing user experience, it possibly isn't at this point really the best user experience. So there's some things that aren't so great actually about that kind of slightly disparate way of bringing together an experience. But what the promise of it is for the user is that they own their experience. They own their account, they own the tokens in it, they can take that into different environments and they can play in those environments, they can add value or create meaning for the things that they own and for the communities that they build. That promise is only realized if there's some degree of interoperability between the different applications where where players can then actually play or use their NFTs and their accounts and so on in these different games and environments. And there's a bit of a coordination issue then that comes, right? Because we all built these things in parallel. They might be on different chains, they're running in different tech stacks, and they need to be able to speak to each other. So for example, if I have an NFT that's very abundant in the Alien Worlds metaverse, it's not going to be very powerful, right? Because an abundant NFT is going to have low powers. If I were then able to bring that NFT into Upland or the Sandbox or another game, and it was very abundant, but it was extremely powerful in their environment, that would disrupt the game balancing in that app. So there need to be some standards and some ways of of the assets being interoperable. There also need to be ways of the actual user interface being interoperable, if to the extent that that's possible, especially for more spatially built out metaverses, especially if they have some kind of AR or VR build out. So that's really what we're trying to do by bringing together the largest blockchain metaverses, is to create a more interoperable user experience that then delivers more of the promise of why we would build these open architectures in the first place. Anything to add?
100%. No, I think the other reason, obviously, is because we figured the only way that we're going to get there, because it's complicated to figure out some of these standards, is if we all, as industry participants, get in the room together and say, okay, well, how do we get our own stuff to work together first? Because we can't ask other people to interoperate with us if we can't do it amongst each other first. And we wanted to make sure that this was going to be a series of standards that we offer up in an open source fashion to the community, and that they're community-led standards, because that's very important in keeping with the principles of Web3. The last thing we wanted was for some big Web2 company to come in and say, well, okay, now let us tell you what your standard is going to be. And by the way, you pay us a royalty every year for using this standard that we created. And so we've created this foundation, which is also based here, go Zug, and is open to everybody. So of course, I would encourage everybody in the room, if you're not a member, please come join the Open Metaverse Alliance. You can come to our website and apply, and then you can dive into the working groups. We'll get you on Slack, and you can have your voice heard.
Awesome. I think like the resounding kind of theme is assets in gaming, in terms of what makes Web3 gaming different to Web2, and like ownership and governance of those assets. Duke, do you think that that is the main component of Web3 gaming? Is there something else? Because I know that that's kind of your business and what you're building.
Yeah, we trying to bring Web2 games into Web3, giving them the standardized smart contracts and NFT marketplace solutions to bring their games to Web3. And I completely agree with Saro and Robby here. And standardization is key. We talked with a bunch of Web2 games, and their biggest concern is why would the players would want to do anything about Web3? And I think that having Unity, for example, having their own decentralized tools put there on the marketplace, and having seen Roblox, of course, UGC content and Fortnite UGC content rising, I think that there is a big chance that there's going to be a very popular Web3 game in the future, both capitalizing on standardization of asset creation on the blockchain and also UGC content. So we will probably see a popular Web3 game in the future utilizing that. And two, I think that having blockchain to be the liquidity pool for exchanging game assets I think that's the greatest value of blockchain games, giving people outside of the game that don't have access to the game or don't even need to play the game to be able to buy and sell and trade those in-game assets without playing that game, and it just provides a tremendous amount of liquidity. If you are a gamer, you just created an asset inside the game, and you want to sell that asset to outside world. Having people, even speculators of NFTs, joining that ecosystem is key to a thriving gaming economy. So I think that blockchain just makes it easier to buy and sell and trade in-game assets, and so yeah.
I actually learned a fun fact about Vitalik, that he created Ethereum because he was a gamer himself, World of Warcraft, and he was fed up with not owning his own assets. So
and that's how soul-bound tokens were born.
Yeah.
Because there were soul-bound items in World of Warcraft.
Super cool. Julian, how does regulation play into all of this, and how does it affect your business?
Regulation is big in the way it affects us. For us, as we work with big brands, they take it very seriously. They don't let you trade with their IP and their reputation very easily. So you have to make sure that you are compliant with any regulation from the start. We welcome regulation. The more regulation there is, the better it is for the users in terms of protection of the users, and also from a better understanding of the different corporates that we work with. The fan token that we issue for Barca, PSG, or any other clubs, they issue in Switzerland, go Zug again. We FINMA regulated, we FINMA compliant. So we work with the regulator on all the different countries that we work with, and they can honestly break the market for us. As we have seen in the US, as you mentioned, we have NHL, NBA, NFL teams, but today we cannot launch fan tokens in the US because the regulation is not clear yet. So we welcome regulation, but we welcome clear regulation. And when chairman of the SEC is not really sure if a Pokemon card is or is not a security, the clubs that are not really sure that when it comes to the fan token, is it going to be a security or not, they don't want to take a bet, so they prefer to hold for now, and they prefer to wait. So we welcome regulation. MiCA, Digital Passport for Europe, is great for the entire industry. We wish that the US is going to follow something similar very soon.
I think one of the challenges we've had as an industry is that, blockchain began as a great technology focused primarily on fintech applications. And so as a result, we've grown up in an industry that had financial services at its heart. But on top of that, 5 or 6 years ago, we started creating entertainment. And entertainment is different from financial services.
Right.
But when they both run on similar infrastructure, I think some regulators may mistake them for being similar when they're in fact very different.
Right.
And so I think it's important that we keep impressing upon those who will listen that actually entertainment and financial services are slightly different, and there's a reason they should be treated differently.
I'd just add one comment about regulation and sort of a frontier that we're all going to be facing, which is AI. So we're beginning, I'm sure everybody is beginning to use AI in how we build our games, how we test. We're building a feature whereby the community will be able to govern AI lore models, so extending the lore and the narrative framework of the Alien Worlds metaverse through large language models that are trained on our existing lore, but having the community govern that. It's really important that we think about decentralization and its role in governing AI, but also regulation. There was an open letter in March of this year, people sort of highlighting that there could be some risks as superintelligence could emerge through AI. Frankly, if we don't know when that could happen, because we've never done this before, we've never created artificial intelligence before. That actually would pose an existential risk to numerous things, and including blockchain technology. Actually, I mean, even before full superintelligence might emerge, cryptography could break down, and so tokens could be moved around, and the way that consensus works could be disrupted. So I think that the fundamental sort of framework of what we build on is also has an interrelationship with AI, and I think that looking at regulation there is also going to be really important and something that we talk about more in the coming year.
Thank you. So I think we're coming up close to time, and I wanted to say thank you to really these world leaders in this space for giving us a glimpse into what's going on in the Web3 gaming industry, its past and where we're going. And before we conclude, I would like to give the space to each of you to share some words of wisdom for anyone getting into this space.
Ooh, I'd be prepared for a wild ride because you're welcoming, users and your audience kind of at a peer level with yourself. And that is fundamentally different from traditional business models where there's a consumer and a producer and those lines are fairly distinct. So that's where the energy is, that's where the value is. And it also makes for some different challenges that I suppose we haven't really faced before. Thanks.
I think when it comes to Web3 games and metaverses, it's very much like Web3 in and of itself. For those of you who haven't tried any, I would encourage you to just try them, buy some assets, play, and have fun, because there's no better way to learn about it and to understand what we're talking about than actually just to try.
I will continue on that and say you don't need to feel you need to understand the technology in order to buy it. Most of the games that you already use, you don't understand how internet works and you use it every day. So don't be afraid just because it's called Web3. To use it and to learn by doing.
Great advice.
Well, from my side, developers, be patient. I think Web3 gaming is going to explode. I mean, I'm reading this book about a cold start problem, and I believe that Web3 games have not reached yet the tipping point to go crossing the chasm and going mainstream. So just be patient.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Alissa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.